While the mainstream media may be portraying the Dutch farmer protests as an anti-environmentalist movement peopled by selfish farmers, corrupt, centralised agricultural monocultural giants are oppressing independent farmers all over the world. This is connected to the land grab of Bill Gates. This whole fertiliser situation is a scam. It's in order to bankrupt the farmers so that their land can be grabbed. This shows you how the Great Reset operates.
In the Netherlands, they've got a massive nitrate crisis, a huge crisis caused by over-fertilization, too many nitrates, and for that matter, phosphates, going into the air, going into the water, going into the soil. The major cause of this nitrate pollution is livestock farming. What happens is that you bring in nutrients from all over the world to feed to your pigs, your chickens, your cows, in big steel sheds. They poop out a lot of those nutrients, and then you've got to put them somewhere, and farmers spread them over their fields. But because of the huge number of animals they're keeping, the soil and the plants and the fields can't absorb all the nutrients that they're spreading. So they call it fertilizing the fields. In fact, they're dumping the majority of that manure. And so then it washes off into the rivers and causes eutrophication, which means overfeeding. That stimulates blooms of algae, which oxygenate the water during the day, but when they respire at night, they suck all the oxygen out of the water and kill much of the life that lives in the rivers. So it causes devastating impacts. It also causes a lot of greenhouse gas emissions from nitrous oxide. It's a very powerful greenhouse gas. And people have been warning successive Dutch governments that this is a huge problem since the 1980s. But because of the strength of the farmers' lobby groups, they never really took any serious action about it. And it wasn't until 2019 where there was a ruling from the Dutch Council of State which said this is in direct contravention of EU law. You have to clean them up by law. That was the point at which the Dutch government got serious about it. They then offered various routes to people to clean up that pollution. But, they just are legally obliged to stop this horrendous pollution crisis. It's a really massive crisis. Now, what's happened is that a whole bunch of extreme right people, fascists, outright fascists in some cases, white supremacists in the Netherlands, but also from around the world, have latched onto this and say, aha, the real agenda is nothing to do with nitrates.
They're doing this under the guise of a made-up nitrogen crisis.
It's to do with trying to throw the Dutch farmers off the land.
They're doing this because they want these farmers' land
and replace them with asylum seekers and immigrants.
And they want it to house new immigrants.
Of course, it's completely untrue. There's no such agenda, but it's become this massive cause célèbre among far-right conspiracy theorists. So I can scarcely express my sense of despondency to see Russell Brand latching onto this and promoting this basically fascist conspiracy theory. Now, yeah, the guy used to be a hero of mine. I, years ago, appeared on his show, which was called The Trues. And in fact, when The Guardian asked me, who's your hero of the year and will you write a short article about them, I wrote about Russell Brand because he was making such great waves in terms of sort of waking people up to some of the fundamental injustices in the UK. And I don't really know what's happened to him, but he's gone further and further over towards the conspiracy theories and the far right, which thrives off conspiracy theories. My guess is that that's where the audience is. If you want a huge guaranteed audience, you spout far right conspiracy theories which can actually kill people. And to see Russell spreading it, it's heartbreaking. And then he sort of throws in all this stuff about Bill Gates. Now, I'm no fan of Bill Gates. I think he gets things profoundly wrong, but he has precisely zero to do with what is going on in the Netherlands. But his name is like a trigger, a bit like George Soros, or Klaus Schwab or Anthony Fauci. A few people who you just say the name and yes, they're the enemy. And so he throws in Bill Gates. What the hell? And he throws in the Great Reset. What the hell? What's that got to do with it? Nothing. No part of what the Dutch government is doing is anything to do with the World Economic Forum. And on it goes, all these sort of trigger words, these trigger terms thrown in as red meat to these fascists and supremacists that he's now appealing to. Now, I'm not for a moment saying that all farmers belong to the far right by any means. That would be evidently untrue. But the far right has always championed farmers as being the true, authentic people who it feels an obligation to protect against anyone else. And unfortunately, in some cases, as with the current situation in the Netherlands, some farmers have happily embraced that and have joined forces quite explicitly with the white supremacists and fascists who claim to be defending those livestock farmers. I think it's a cynical attempt to deflect blame. They are trying to undermine effective action. And one of the ways of doing that is to point to other people and say they're to blame. And one day it might be Klaus Schwab, the next day it might be asylum seekers on a dinghy.